Mr. Mannon, I know this is kind of off the cuff. Do you have a minute to come up to the front, please? I'm sorry, and Ms. Prince, if you'd like to, I just want to make sure. I think we sometimes, we have a lot of students that are involved in non-athletic clubs and activities. Mr. Mannon is the Assistant Principal of Student Affairs. Did a great job setting up the orientation process this week with check-ins and the temperature checks and the one-way hallways. And the reason I wanted to call the two of you up here is if we're offering opportunities for students to participate in athletics in person, and I would encourage you, and I'm sure the board would feel the same way, as if we can come up with some protocol, if we could find ways for our activity programs or some of our music programs. I know there's a lot more risks with the music and instruments because of the aerosol and the spreading, but whether it's a small group meeting to do something after school, to do a little outdoor performance, or at least a little I would encourage you two to be as creative as possible while keeping safety as your top priority, obviously. But I would hate to see that someone paint us in the corner of we're only offering these opportunities to the IHSA and those students. If there's opportunities to do in-person activities or performances, I would think the board would want to see both. Am I correct, or is that?
The more interaction that children have with children, the better, in my opinion. And that's the social and emotional connection there. And if you can take turns coming up and playing chess 6 feet apart, we can do that in the gym, I encourage that. I want kids to be around kids as much as possible, even if it's as close as me and Michael.
And Aubrey, I didn't mean to put you on the spot tonight, but you did a really nice job putting together a write-up for the Board of Education on how you could do some of your stuff virtually.
Yeah, I can jump in and say some of our ideas. I wasn't prepared to speak, but I'm a good speaker, so I'm not afraid to talk if anybody knows me. Thank you for inviting me down. My name is Aubrey Prince, and I also am a member of the community as well, living in Brookfield. I've spent many hours with my fellow administrators, parents, teachers on the COVID committee over the summer, and also worked many hours with other colleagues, educators in my field of music to try to do our due diligence to provide the safest and most inclusive opportunities in our new normal. We have lots of ideas actually they're not even ideas, we have 3 really solid laid out plans for the theater program, for the fall play, and for the spring musical to make the best opportunity and get as many students involved in the safest possible way under the IDPH guidelines, our RBHS guidelines I talked about with Mr. Mannon, and also aligning with some additional professional studies that I've been following throughout the summer. The Colorado study is one that all of our professional music organizations banded together to fund. And through that study, we have found really great tools and also really important research to provide safe opportunities. Right now, the best way to do that is outdoors. We did run through the help of Kristen and Joel aerosol emission tests in our large ensemble performing spaces, the auditorium, the little theater. And the bigger the space, the more spread out with PPE is the way to go for indoor activities. I know I don't 100% feel super comfortable assuming indoor risk without extra masks and possible shields and greater social distancing, but I do plan on, with the support of the board and the parents in the program and the students, I know they're very excited about evening choral opportunities that we talked about during our in-person orientation. We're looking to do outdoor rehearsals on Tuesday evenings with the 3 curricular choirs to provide an in-person performance experience that we'll prepare for in our daily curricular programming. So, and I know my colleague did marching band camp, and he did that super safely with small groups, rotating groups, out on the field with, you know, the student leadership, and that was very successful, and they were very stringent with their, sorry, I'm saying a lot, and I'm aware of it now, with the IDPH guidelines, so that was very successful. There's just, you know, risk everywhere, and we just, as, you know, good teachers, want to do our best to do those things safely, but I know my colleagues and I, we just cherish the RBHS kids, and we want to give them, we don't want them to feel like they're lacking or losing anything, so we will do our due diligence to provide them the best experience under the safest guidelines.
Dave, what are your thoughts?
You know, I just was emailing Colleen, who oversees our speech team and shenanigans program and fall play and things like that, and you know, just now about opportunities that she could present that will be socially distanced and appropriate, and we've had conversations like this times 10. You know, Aubrey and I spoke earlier, really when COVID was really coming out, about, okay, how can we get both, you know, the play and the musical out and events and concerts, and so we've had these ongoing conversations with staff about what can we do to present opportunities, because we know, obviously, the social outlets are key, you know, to keep that social emotion, keep those connections together. And I'm really proud of the staff and the way our extracurricular sponsors have responded. They've all presented, you know, their version of what it would look like virtually, potentially in a virtual sense, such as chess, and others in person if they could pull it off in a distance format. And I think we got a good thing going. What I'm asking them to do, though, is come down. I met with Mr. Helgeson today for Clarion and said, okay, here's what we're thinking. I would like to bring some students in, but here's our approach. And I said, yes, a great approach, let's review it, but then let's also have the parents co-sign that. And so that the expectation is there from the students, the parents, the sponsors. We understand those expectations, what those protocols are. And I think Aubrey's doing the same thing with her group, which she just mentioned. And so, and then the follow-up, I think, is key too, just to make sure that the support's there from our end, from the administrative end, of whatever resources they need, but also just to connect up and see, you know, are we being safe? And so, I'm excited. I think the sponsors are excited. We got a really good group. I always call it the fun part of the job, you know. It really is. And so if we can continue to roll those programs out, you know, I think we got almost all of them going, which is phenomenal, you know, in a pandemic. If we can keep that going, then, you know, we limit students that come up here and talk about the negative parts of COVID and self-isolation and stuff like that. So.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Any questions from the board?
I just was wondering, I know that music my sons were involved in it early on. It has competitions. Is there any guidance from the state yet on that kind of thing?
Regarding, like ILMEA is one of our big state music organizations. They've met, I think, 3 times, I could be wrong in that, 3 big times throughout the summer to try to change what our fall, like ILMEA auditions look like. All state, that's the same governing organization. We have not received an additional update if those things will be happening in the fall. I think they might be, I'm not a part of that committee, they might be kind of treading lightly to see what the fall entails, and I know maybe looking at an alternative schedule and running some of those things hopefully in the spring. I'm kind of talking off the cuff about that. That is not a directive from ILMEA. I'm not an ILMEA spokesperson.
So is your concern that you want to, if there's a possibility to have them?
Oh, I was just
asking?
I'm just asking, and I think, again, just hammering home the point of, like, the state doesn't know what the hell it's doing.
Right. Well, they're taking it slow, and I think to see how school openings are rolling out, it's just, we don't have any guidance from our ILMEA organization about that. Nothing's been brought out yet. I do know that ACDA, which is another, one of our other choral organizations, and RB students have participated in ACDA last year, and so some students auditioned for the honor choirs the year before. I actually host a statewide festival for the treble ensemble at COD. That has been, we're putting a pin in that, and that's probably not happening this year. And they just announced that there will be no honor choirs at the ACDA national level in March. That was to be in Texas. It will be a virtual conference for educators.
Thanks,
There is some, like, on FCCLA, which isn't associated with the IHSA, they have like a phenomenal protocol list of how they're gonna do competitions virtually this year. And FCCLA is more of the cooking, fashion, stuff like that. So they are gonna run their programs. Talked to Aaron with Model UN. They also have some protocols in place. So I'm excited to see those run. We're still waiting, like you said, on the IHSA with the extracurricular side of things.
And I think Speech has a virtual platform ready for theirs
Correct.
as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to second what Kevin said, Aubrey. You did a great job at explaining. We asked everybody to explain how they would do it on an e-learning platform or a remote platform. You really went above and beyond it, and you could tell you really cared a lot.
I do. I
And-
very much care about your
and-
children
and
and
I-
their music education and theater experiences,
it-
and all their experiences.
It just really showed, and
Thank
that,
you.
we didn't get that from everybody. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you, David.
Thanks.
I don't think there's any other items, Mr. Smith?
No, the,
We did
district,
close.
district calendar, we don't need to discuss that because we're gonna go to the number B. Matters for close, we already had closed, so any visitor statements, anybody wanna speak? We still have one more, okay, I promised two. Discussion items, any requested discussion items? That's that.
Future agenda item was Mrs. Zalis and Kristen about the fees related to activities in athletics.
Okay? And then we'll
I make a motion, we adjourn for this evening.